abilities are claws, and this allows you to have 4 times unarmed damage. Now, something really disappointing about Skyrim is that unarmed is not a skill any longer. So unarmed is kind of not nearly as viable for combat as, you know, your one-handed or two-handed professions, or even your bows or any of your magic, or I should say your destruction magic specifically. But claws, there are bar fights throughout the game, and you can bet on bar fights. You can get rewards from winning bar fights, and this claws really boosts your potential in that regard. Even more so, there's a little bit of synergy with a heavy armor perk called Fists of Steel that increases your unarmed damage even further. So claws can, I guess, claws plus Fists of Steel can kind of make hand-to-hand combat somewhat viable, but it still doesn't really keep up with the other forms of combat in the game. Your ideal playstyle here, whereas the Argonian is almost all passive, sneaky, and thief-like skills, the Khajiit's got a nice mix of those thief-like skills and one-handed and archery. So it's really easy to make like an assassin character out of him that is slightly more competent in combat, or at least competent more quickly in combat than the Argonian. So it's kind of a Nightblade assassin kind of character. And next, actually, before I jump off the Khajiit, I feel like I didn't really do it much justice in the preset department. So I'll scroll through here and show you guys what some Khajiit can look like. I'm sure all you furries right now are probably just a fapping away. Alright, now we'll move on to the mother race of Skyrim, the Nord. The Nord's favorite skills are plus 10 to two-handed, plus 5 to one-handed, block, smithing, speech, and light armor. Starting spells are flames and healing. Racial power is battle cry. All nearby foes flee for 30 seconds. Racial abilities is 50% frost resistance. So your ideal build for the Nord is pretty much any kind of warrior you'd like to make. He's got the plus 10 to two-handed, so you can go with the battle axe wielding or the warhammer slinging warrior. You know, cares nothing about protecting himself, only about destroying his enemies. Or since he's got plus 5 to one-handed and block, you can still go with the sword and board. Having plus 5 to smithing especially is helpful. Smithing in this game is actually awesome. I will probably have some videos out later showing the finer parts of it. And it is really cool. You can get really good gear really cheap, and you can get better gear than the merchants have, and you can do it cheaper. Plus, it just feels just satisfying because the crafting system is well put together in this game. Your racial power battle cry is basically like a beefed up version of the Imperial's racial power. Instead of just calming enemies, they straight flee from you, and it lasts 30 seconds, so it's an awesome crowd control ability. Frost resistance. So far I haven't ran into a whole lot in Skyrim that deals frost damage, but I would assume that it's going to be more prevalent than the other types of elemental magic. So I would assume that frost resistance is probably one of your more useful resistance skills. And here I am delinquent on cycling my presets again. So let's do some of that. Alright, moving right along. Ready to work. Here we have the orc. I really like what they've done aesthetically with the orcs in Skyrim. They look so much better than anything that's ever been in the Elder Scrolls series before. So the orcs' favorite skills, they start with a plus 10 to heavy armor, plus 5 to smithing, one-handed, two-handed, block, and enchanting. Interesting one there on enchanting. Starting spells are flames and healing. Racial power, Berserk. For 60 seconds, you take half damage and inflict double damage in melee combat. They actually do not have a racial ability of any sort. So the Orc's ideal build is pretty similar to the Nord, except he's just got a couple different switch outs. Since he has enchanting as well as smithing, he makes an even better option for crafting your own armor. Since he has that little bit of a boost to enchanting, you can kind of get yourself down that road faster and make even better armor with your own enchantments and whatnot. And since he's got a plus 10 to heavy armor, but then plus 5 to one-handed and two-handed, He's kind of got an equal opportunity to go on whatever type of weapons you'd like to use, but of course skew towards your heavy armor. Berserk is huge. Berserk is really powerful. Taking half damage can be a lifesaver, and inflicting double damage will just allow you to one-shot some absolutely insanely powerful enemies. And I'm proud of myself. I did good with the presets. Next, the Red Guard. So the Red Guard's favored skills are +10 to one-handed, +5 to archery, block, smithing, destruction, and alteration. Starting spells, flames, and healing. Racial power is Adrenaline Rush. You regenerate stamina 10 times faster for 60 seconds. Racial abilities is 50% poison resistance. So your Red Guard is somewhat similar to Imperials in your ideal build, since they've got some bonuses to destruction and alteration. Throwing some magic in there is never a bad idea as a Red Guard. Since they've got the +10 to one-handed, it makes them probably the best race if you're thinking on going like a dual-wielding build. And since they've got the +5 to block in there as well, you can readily pull off a sword and board style. They've also got a really nice +5 to archery. So it's rare that you'll meet an enemy in the game that you can't get into melee combat with, but there are some. And dragons are one where if all you have is melee, you're kind of limited in combat options. So having the ability to kind of delve a little bit faster into archery with that +5, it makes just having a bow on you and occasionally using it pretty helpful. Alright, next and last, the Wood Elf. Wood Elves' favored skills are +10 to archery, +5 to sneak, lockpicking, pickpocket, light armor, and alchemy. Starting spells, flames, and healing. Racial power, command animal. Target animal becomes your ally for 60 seconds. Racial abilities, 50% disease and poison resistance. Alright, so your ideal playstyle for a Wood Elf is probably going to be a Marksman. It's going to be an archer of some sort, given that you've got the +10 to archery and also the +5 to alchemy. Alchemy works, the poisons of alchemy specifically, work in conjunction with archery almost better than any other skill. They work really well with any kind of blade, poisoning your blade, of course. However, being able to poison an arrow and slap that poison on the enemy before he's even to you just seems to really synergize with your poison abilities. And given that it's a full +10 to archery, you kind of pick your bow skills up quick. If you want to make a Marksman character, I would say go Wood Elf and don't even think twice about it. Marksman can kind of be a pain in the butt to run in the early game, just because your bow skills, when you have no perks for your bow, are kind of difficult to work out in combat. Generally, enemies will get up on you, and they'll get swings on you, and that's kind of bad for a Marksman. The +10 archery, and especially being able to kind of make some stamina reducing poisons early on and apply that to your bow, makes it easier to manage keeping your enemies away from you and getting them killed before they actually get up to you. I'll go ahead and note that actually the first character that I created was a Wood Elf, and I've got him about level 6 right now, and I'm really enjoying it. The archery in this is way beyond anything that's been in the previous Elder Scrolls series. I don't quite have the perks yet, but there's actually a perk that allows you to slow time whenever you're aiming down the sight or whenever you're zooming in with your bow. So it really makes the bow combat just workable in the game, as well as like your critical strike and your damage bonus perks that make the bow come out right. And that's going to wrap it up. That's the last race. So if you're seeing this video immediately as I put it up on YouTube, the annotations might not be there yet, but I'm going to apply annotations to this video that have all of these skills that I've read off written out in them, so they're easy to see. Alright, so thank you for watching, and if you'd like more Skyrim content, then go ahead and subscribe. If you liked this video, then let YouTube know, and I'll see you later.